Picture this: a country with enough river energy to power 300 million homes. A government that has publicly committed to building 28,500 megawatts of hydropower by 2035. And yet right now in 2025, large parts of Kathmandu still experience scheduled power outages. How does this happen? And more importantly, who gets rich when it finally gets fixed? Nepal is landlocked between two of the world's largest economies, India and China. It has 6,000 rivers. It has mountains that create the perfect gradient for hydropower generation. Welcome back to Continent Business Hubs, the channel where we equip entrepreneurs with the financial knowledge, the practical tools, and the kingdom foundations to build real lasting wealth that funds God's purposes in the world. If this is your first time here, hit subscribe and make sure you turn on notifications. We publish new content every week. The World Bank estimates Nepal has 83,000 megawatts of technically feasible hydropower potential. For context, that is more than the entire installed power capacity of Germany. But here is the brutal reality. In 2025, Nepal has developed less than 3% of that potential. The country's 16th five-year plan sets a target of 28,500 megawatts by 2035 with an estimated cost of $77.83 billion. The government expects two-thirds of that to come from private investment. Private investment that has actually been falling, down 9.6% in 2022-23 according to the World Bank. So there is a massive gap between ambition and execution. That gap is your opportunity. Why hasn't this been solved already? 3 reasons. First, regulatory instability. Nepal has changed governments more than 30 times since 1990. Every new cabinet reshuffles licensing processes, renegotiates power purchase agreements, and delays projects. Second, transmission infrastructure. Even if you build a dam, you need a grid to sell the electricity. Nepal's cross-border transmission capacity to India, its biggest potential buyer, is severely limited. Third, financing. Nepal's domestic bond market is thin. International investors see political risk and walk away. The result? Projects that look extraordinary on paper stall for years on the ground. But here's what is changing. India desperately needs clean energy and Nepal is right next door. The two countries signed the long-term power trade agreement allowing up to 10,000 megawatts of electricity exports by 2040. China is financing several hydropower projects through its Belt and Road Initiative. And Nepal's foreign exchange reserves hit nearly $20 billion in early 2026. Enough to cover almost a full year of imports, which signals improving macroeconomic stability. The smart money right now is looking at 3 specific entry points. First, run-of-river hydropower projects under 100 megawatts that qualify for streamlined licensing. Second, grid infrastructure and transmission companies that every hydropower project will depend on. And third, early-stage project development companies that acquire licenses, do the technical groundwork, and then sell to larger buyers. I want to be honest with you. Nepal is not an easy market. Corruption is embedded in the bureaucracy. The gray listing by the Financial Action Task Force in 2025 adds compliance complexity. About 2,000 young Nepalis are still leaving the country every single day because they cannot find work at home. These are real risks. But here's the thing about markets with real friction. They have real barriers to entry. The investors who figure out the regulatory landscape, build the right local partnerships, and have the patience to wait 5 to 10 years before returns start flowing will face almost zero competition from the people who found it too hard and walked away. Nepal's hydropower story is not a question of if. It is a question of when and who. The rivers are not going anywhere. The demand from India and China is not going anywhere. The only question is whether you will be positioned when the bottleneck finally breaks open. In our next video, we cover Nepal's other massive gold mine, the agricultural sector that is collapsing right now, and what that collapse creates for investors. Subscribe and hit the bell. See you there.